The city bus hissed as its doors swung open, letting in the cool air of the morning rush. Students, workers, and elderly passengers shuffled inside, each one searching for a seat. Among them was Tyler, a 17-year-old boy dressed in designer clothes, shiny sneakers, gold chain, and a phone in his hand worth more than most people's monthly rent. Tyler wasn't just any teenager. He was the son of one of the wealthiest businessmen in town. He carried himself like the world owed him something, strutting down the aisle like it was a fashion runway. At the same time, an elderly woman in her late 70s, with wrinkled hands and a worn-out coat, slowly stepped onto the bus. She clutched her faded handbag close, her breathing a little heavy from the climb up the steps. Despite her tired eyes, there was a quiet dignity in her presence. The bus was nearly full. The only empty seat was right beside Tyler. The old woman gently tapped his shoulder and asked softly, "Excuse me, young man, may I sit here?" Tyler looked her up and down with disgust. His lip curled, as if the mere thought of sharing a seat with her was an insult. Loud enough for everyone on the bus to hear, he sneered. "Ugh, no way. I don't sit next to people like you." The words cut through the air. Some passengers gasped. Others turned their heads away uncomfortably. The old woman's face fell, and she quietly stepped back, gripping the pole instead of insisting. Tyler smirked, leaned back, and blasted music from his phone, acting as though he had won. But what Tyler didn't know was that this moment, this cruel act of arrogance, would set off a chain of events that would change his life forever. Before I continue, if you believe that respect should be shown to every human being, no matter their age, color, or wealth, drop a like right now. And if you love your parents or grandparents, subscribe, because stories like this will remind you of their value. Back on the bus, the ride continued in tense silence. The passengers whispered among themselves, throwing disapproving glances at Tyler. Yet the old woman said nothing, keeping her head high. What nobody realized was that this poor old lady wasn't who she appeared to be. And soon, the arrogant teen would face a humiliation so unforgettable that it would echo through the entire city. The bus rattled down the busy streets, passengers jostling slightly as the driver made a sharp turn. Tyler lounged in his seat, scrolling on his phone, his music blaring so loudly that others could faintly hear the beat. The elderly woman remained standing, gripping the metal pole tightly to steady herself. Her hands trembled, not only from age but from the sting of humiliation. Still, she stayed quiet, her eyes gazing out the window. A young mother with her child leaned toward her and whispered, "Ma'am, you can take my seat." But the old woman gently shook her head. "No, dear, thank you. I'll be fine." She smiled, though her eyes told another story. Meanwhile, Tyler chuckled under his breath, whispering just loud enough for a few people nearby to hear. "Can you believe it? Dressed like that, and she thinks she can sit next to me? What's next? She'll ask me to share my charger." Some passengers exchanged uncomfortable looks. A man at the back muttered, "Kids these days no respect." But Tyler didn't care. He thrived on the attention, proud of his cruel remarks. Suddenly, the bus hit a bump. The elderly woman nearly lost her balance. For a brief second, her frail body swayed dangerously. Tyler glanced up. Everyone thought he might help. Instead, he smirked and went back to his phone. That was the last straw for many. A middle-aged man wearing a work uniform stood up, glaring at Tyler. "Hey kid, show some respect. That could be your grandmother." Tyler rolled his eyes. "Relax, man. She's fine. Besides, I'm not giving up my seat. I don't sit next to, well, you know." The word he didn't say, the judgment in his tone, hung heavy in the air. Everyone knew what he meant. The elderly woman looked down, her dignity still intact, but her silence was louder than words. But what Tyler didn't notice was the bus driver's eyes in the rearview mirror. The driver had been listening to everything, and he knew something about the old woman that Tyler, and everyone else on the bus, was about to learn. The bus slowed to a stop in front of a tall, gleaming skyscraper. Several passengers got off, but the elderly woman remained. She straightened her coat, smoothed her silver hair, and for the first time, spoke in a clear, commanding tone. "Young man, one day, you will regret the way you treated me." Tyler laughed, tossing his phone in the air and catching it. "Yeah, sure. What are you gonna do? Call the manners police?" The passengers bristled. But the old woman only smiled, mysteriously, knowingly, as if she held a secret no one else did. The bus continued toward the wealthiest part of town. And while Tyler thought he was untouchable, he was about to step right into the most humbling lesson of his life. If you believe karma always finds its way back, Drop a comment with the word karma right now. Let's see how many of you believe in it. The bus finally pulled up in front of a massive glass-covered skyscraper, the kind of building that screamed power and wealth. The golden letters above the entrance read, Williams International Holdings. Several passengers looked out the window in awe. Tyler, noticing the building, smirked. Now that's the kind of place I belong to. I bet half the people on this bus couldn't even afford to walk through those doors. He shoved his earbuds back in, pretending not to care. The elderly woman, however, slowly rose from her seat. For the first time since boarding, everyone saw her straighten her posture. She was no longer just a tired old lady struggling to keep balance. There was an air of authority about her, something that silenced the murmurs in the bus. Tyler scoffed. Careful, Grandma. Don't trip on the stairs. But the woman didn't respond. Instead, she walked gracefully to the front. Before stepping off, she turned to the driver and said with a kind smile, Thank you, Charles. I'll see you inside. The driver nodded respectfully, almost bowing his head. Yes, Ms. Williams. Have a wonderful morning. Gasps rippled through the bus. Did he just say, Williams? Someone whispered. As in, the building? Another asked. Tyler frowned, confused. Wait, what? You know her? The driver shot him a sharp glance. Son, you better hope you learn respect before it's too late. That woman you mocked? She doesn't just know this building, she OWNS it. The entire bus went silent. Tyler's jaw dropped. What are you talking about? The elderly woman turned back to face him, her eyes calm but piercing. I am Evelyn Williams, founder and CEO of Williams International. I built that building brick by brick, deal by deal. And today, young man, you taught me something valuable. People still judge by appearances. The passengers erupted. Some gasped, others smiled with pride. A few clapped. Tyler's face flushed red. He stammered, trying to find words, but nothing came out. His arrogance melted away in seconds. The old woman leaned closer, her voice low but powerful. You laughed at me because you thought I was nothing. But remember this, true worth isn't measured by your clothes, your seat, or your money. It's measured by your respect for others. Without another word, she stepped off the bus. The doorman of the skyscraper rushed to greet her, opening the glass doors wide. The passengers pressed against the windows, watching in disbelief, as the woman they thought was just another tired old lady was welcomed like royalty. Tyler sat frozen in his seat, the reality sinking in. The boy who thought he was above everyone had just been humiliated in front of the entire bus, and by the very person he had mocked. If you believe respect is worth more than money, hit the like button right now. Let's spread this message everywhere. The bus sat in stunned silence as Evelyn Williams disappeared through the golden doors of her own empire. For a moment, nobody spoke. The only sound was the low hum of the engine. Tyler slumped into his seat, his face pale. He couldn't believe it. He had spent the entire ride mocking and humiliating the very woman who could buy and sell everything he thought made him superior. One of the older passengers broke the silence. Son, let this be a lesson to you. Respect doesn't cost a thing, but disrespect can cost you everything. The words stung. Tyler stared down at his expensive sneakers, suddenly ashamed. For the first time, the brand name on them didn't feel so impressive. When the bus finally reached his stop, he hesitated before getting off. He turned back to the passengers and muttered, almost to himself, I was wrong. The passengers exchanged knowing looks. Tyler walked away slower than usual, his arrogant swagger gone. Meanwhile, Evelyn Williams was already in her office, standing tall behind a desk that overlooked the entire city. Her assistant came in, holding her morning schedule. Ms. Williams, would you like me to cancel your lunch meeting? Evelyn shook her head, a faint smile crossing her lips. No. Today reminded me of something important. Let's keep everything the same. People need to see that power isn't about wealth, it's about humility. She turned toward the window, gazing at the city below. Her voice was soft, but resolute. Every empire I built started with respect. And that's the one currency even billionaires can't fake. As the camera fades out, Evelyn's words linger like an echo, powerful, unforgettable. Now it's your turn. Do you believe respect is more valuable than money? Comment below your thoughts, and tell us where in the world you're watching from. We love seeing how far our stories travel. And remember, if you love your mom, hit subscribe. If you love your dad, smash that like button. Never underestimate someone because of how they look. The world has a way of humbling the arrogant and elevating the humble.